Extinction and negative punishment are two of the easiest BCBA exam concepts to mix up because both can produce a decrease in behavior. Before we start, you can take the free BCBA mock exam and download the free BCBA 6th edition quick study guide at bcbamockexam.com. In this lesson, we will use one decision rule, practice 10 exam-style scenarios, and check the trap in each answer. Before the shortcut, get the definitions clean. Extinction means a response that used to contact reinforcement no longer contacts that maintaining reinforcer. Negative punishment means a stimulus is removed after a response, and the future frequency of that response decreases. Both can reduce behavior, so the exam distinction is not whether the example feels unpleasant. The distinction is the contingency. Use two questions in order. First, what consequence maintained the behavior before the procedure? Second, what changed after the response? If the response no longer produces the maintaining reinforcer, you are usually looking at extinction. If a stimulus or reinforcer is withdrawn after the behavior and the behavior decreases, you're usually looking at negative punishment. Use this side-by-side comparison. In extinction, the response no longer produces the consequence that maintained it. That does not mean every unavailable reinforcer is extinction. It has to be the response produced maintaining reinforcer. In negative punishment, something is removed after the response and the response decreases. Response cost and timeout from positive reinforcement are common negative punishment examples. This is the second big boundary. Negative reinforcement and negative punishment both involve removal, but the effect is different. Negative reinforcement removes something after a response, and the response increases. Negative punishment removes something after a response, and the response decreases. Escape extinction is different again. There, the behavior used to produce escape, and now that escape consequence no longer follows the response. On test A, removed is not enough. You have to ask what changed and what happened to future behavior. Another common exam trap is the extinction burst. An extinction burst can happen when reinforcement is discontinued, so behavior may temporarily increase in frequency, intensity, or variability. But the burst is not the definition. You can identify extinction without a burst if the maintaining reinforcer no longer follows the response. And you should not choose extinction just because behavior gets worse. The controlling question is still whether the response produced maintaining reinforcer has been discontinued. For exam questions, we're learning to label the procedure correctly. In real clinical planning, extinction is not a magic answer by itself. It should match the function identified by assessment. If behavior is severe or dangerous, safety planning matters before implementation. And in many plans, extinction is paired with teaching and reinforcing an alternative response, such as functional communication. This matters because exam items may ask for the label, but good practice still requires function, safety, and replacement behavior. A major trap is planned ignoring. Planned ignoring is extinction only when attention was the maintaining reinforcer. If behavior was maintained by escape, access to tangibles, or automatic reinforcement, ignoring may be ineffective or irrelevant. The exam wants you to connect the procedure to the function. Escape extinction is another common trap. If task refusal used to produce removal of work, then work removal was the maintaining consequence. Escape extinction means refusal no longer produces escape. It is not negative punishment just because the learner does not get to leave. The key is that the maintaining escape consequence is discontinued. Use the same routine for every item. First, name the behavior. Second, name the maintaining consequence. Third, name the new contingency. If the old reinforcer is withheld, you are moving toward extinction. If something is removed after behavior, you are moving toward negative punishment. Before the practice set, separate the labels that often travel together. Extinction describes what happens to the problem response when its maintaining reinforcer no longer follows it. Differential reinforcement of alternative behavior describes reinforcement for a different response. A plan can include both, but the exam may ask about one component only. response cost and timeout are not separate from negative punishment in the same way. They're common forms of negative punishment when contingent removal reduces the behavior. Use this lesson as a filter for practice, not as a one-time explanation. After the video, take the free BCBA mock exam at bcbmockexam.com and mark every item that involves consequences. For each miss, write 2 things: the maintaining reinforcer and the new contingency. If you need a compact review before mixed practice, use the BCBA 6th edition quick study guide on the same site. The goal is not to memorize this video. The goal is to make the distinction automatic when the wording changes. Now practice 10 exam-style scenarios. Pause before each answer. The learning happens when you defend your choice before the reveal, not when you simply hear the label. Question 1. Read the stem slowly. A student's calling out has been maintained by teacher attention. The teacher now withholds attention after calling out and provides attention for hand raising instead. What procedure is being used for calling out? Name the maintaining consequence before you name the procedure. Which detail in the stem controls the answer? Pause now and choose the best answer. The correct answer is B, extinction. The maintaining reinforcer, teacher attention, no longer follows calling out. The deciding detail is not the topic label. It is the relation described in the stem. Exam note. The important clue is not that the teacher is quiet. The clue is that attention maintained calling out, and attention is now withheld after calling out, while an alternative response contacts attention. Trap check. Planned ignoring is extinction only because attention maintained the behavior in this stem. The label depends on the contingency, not on whether the example sounds unpleasant. That is the level of explanation you want before moving on. Question 2. Do not answer from the title alone. A learner loses 2 earned tokens each time he swears. Swearing decreases over time. What procedure is this? Do not let the word removed decide the answer by itself. What would an examiner expect you to discriminate here? Pause now and choose the best answer. The correct answer is C, negative punishment. A condition reinforcer is removed contingent on swearing, and the behavior decreases. Notice how the correct option uses the evidence in the scenario instead of adding assumptions. Exam note. Tokens are conditioned reinforcers. When earned tokens are removed after swearing and swearing decreases, the item is describing response cost, which is a negative punishment procedure. Trap check. Do not choose extinction. The old maintaining reinforcer is not described as being withheld. Extinction is function-specific. The procedure must match the maintaining reinforcer. If you can say that out loud, you're studying the concept instead of memorizing the option. Question 3. Treat this like a real exam item. A learner's task refusal has historically resulted in worksheet removal. During intervention, the worksheet remains present and the learner is guided back to the task. What is this for task refusal? Ask whether the response still produces the reinforcer that maintained it. Which option is precise enough? And which option is only familiar vocabulary? Pause now and choose the best answer. The correct answer is A, escape extinction. The maintaining escape consequence, worksheet removal, no longer follows refusal. The distractor is attractive because it uses familiar language, but does not match the controlling detail. Exam note. This one is hard because the learner does not get away from the task. But the procedure is not defined by what feels restrictive. It is defined by discontinuing the old escape consequence. Trap check. Do not call it negative punishment unless a stimulus is removed as the punishing consequence. Negative punishment requires contingent withdrawal and a decrease in the future response. Keep the answer tied to the evidence in the stem, not to a familiar phrase in isolation. Question 4. Before the answer choices pull you in, name the relation being tested. After aggression, a child's tablet is removed for 2 minutes. Aggression decreases across sessions. What procedure is most likely being described? Separate withheld reinforcement from contingent loss of a stimulus. What evidence in the stem makes one option stronger than the others? Pause now and choose the best answer. The correct answer is D, negative punishment. A preferred stimulus is removed contingent on aggression, and future aggression decreases. This is the kind of item where a loose definition gives you the wrong answer. Exam note. The stem does not say aggression used to produce tablet access and now no longer does. It says tablet access is removed after aggression. That is the negative punishment structure. Trap check. The tablet may also be a reinforcer in other contexts, but here the key event is contingent removal. A familiar example, such as ignoring, only works as extinction when the function fits. That distinction is what usually separates the correct answer from the attractive distractor. Question 5. Pause on the details that would change the answer. A child tantrums in a store, and caregivers used to give candy to stop the tantrum. Caregivers now do not provide candy after tantrums. What is the procedure for tantrums? Check whether the stem gives a decrease in future responding after removal. Which answer could you defend with the fewest assumptions? Pause now and choose the best answer. The correct answer is A. Extinction. The tangible reinforcer that maintained tantrums, candy, is no longer delivered. Keep the explanation concrete enough that another person could check your reasoning. Exam note. This is tangible extinction because the tantrum used to produce candy. The caregiver is not taking away an already available item after the tantrum. They're no longer delivering the reinforcer that maintained the tantrum. Trap check. Nothing is being removed after the tantrum. The old reinforcer is withheld. The best answer names the relation between the response and the consequence. Do not move on until you can explain why the wrong option was wrong. Question 6. Make the stem do the work before you look at the options. During a group game, a student disrupts peers and is moved to a chair away from the game for 1 minute. Disruption decreases. What is this procedure? Name the maintaining consequence before you name the procedure. What is the tempting mistake in this item? Pause now and choose the best answer. The correct answer is B. Timeout from positive reinforcement. The student is removed from a reinforcing environment contingent on disruption. This answer wins because it is both technically accurate and tied to the actual scenario. Exam note. Timeout from positive reinforcement is a form of negative punishment when a learner is removed from a reinforcing setting after the behavior decreases. Trap check. It is a negative punishment procedure, not extinction, because access to reinforcement is removed. The label depends on the contingency, not on whether the example sounds unpleasant. This is the habit to carry into mixed practice sets. Question 7. Read the stems slowly. A learner repeatedly tells off-task jokes because teacher laughter has maintained the behavior. The teacher stops laughing after jokes. Which label fits the joke telling? Do not let the word removed decide the answer by itself. Which detail in the stem controls the answer? Pause now and choose the best answer. The correct answer is C. Extinction. The maintaining attention consequence, laughter, is withheld after jokes. The deciding detail is not the topic label. It is the relation described in the stem. Exam note. The detail that makes this extinction is the prior function. If laughter did not maintain the jokes, stopping laughter would not automatically be the correct label. Trap check. Ignoring is not always extinction. It is extinction here because laughter maintained the response. Extinction is function-specific. The procedure must match the maintaining reinforcer. That is the level of explanation you want before moving on. Question 8. Do not answer from the title alone. A learner's break card response used to produce a break every time. During thinning, the card no longer produces a break during a specified work interval. What risk should the analyst monitor? Ask whether the response still produces the reinforcer that maintained it. What would an examiner expect you to discriminate here? Pause now and choose the best answer. The correct answer is D. Extinction effects for the request response. A previously reinforced request no longer contacts the same reinforcer in that interval. Notice how the correct option uses the evidence in the scenario instead of adding assumptions. Exam note. This is not saying schedule thinning is bad. It is saying a communication response that used to produce reinforcement can show extinction effects when that reinforcement is temporarily unavailable. Trap check. Schedule thinning must be planned carefully. Withholding reinforcement for communication can produce problem behavior if done poorly. Negative punishment requires contingent withdrawal and a decrease in the future response. If you can say that out loud, you're studying the concept instead of memorizing the option. Question 9. Treat this like a real exam item. A child's hand flapping is maintained by visual stimulation. An intervention blocks the visual stimulation produced by the response. What procedure is being attempted? Separate withheld reinforcement from contingent loss of stimulus. Which option is precise enough? And which option is only familiar vocabulary? Pause now and choose the best answer. The correct answer is A. Sensory extinction. The automatically produced maintaining consequence is blocked or no longer produced by the response. The distractor is attractive because it uses familiar language, but does not match the controlling detail. Exam note. Automatic reinforcement can be part of extinction questions. The reinforcer is not delivered by another person, but the analysis still asks whether the response produces its maintaining sensory consequence. Trap check. Extinction can apply to automatic reinforcement when a maintaining sensory consequence is interrupted. A familiar example, such as ignoring, only works as extinction when the function fits. Keep the answer tied to the evidence in the stem, not to a familiar phrase in isolation. Question 10. Before the answer choices pull you in, name the relation being tested. Each time a learner blurts out during class, 1 minute of earned recess is removed. Blurting decreases. What procedure is this? Check whether the stem gives a decrease in future responding after removal. What evidence in the stem makes one option stronger than the others? Pause now and choose the best answer. The correct answer is B. Negative punishment. An earned reinforcer is removed contingent on blurting, and future blurting decreases. This is the kind of item where a loose definition gives you the wrong answer. Exam note. Losing earned recess minutes is a classic contingent loss example. The key is not simply that recess is involved. The key is removal of an earned reinforcer after blurting and a decrease in blurting. Trap check. This is not extinction because the stem does not say the maintaining reinforcer for blurting is withheld. The best answer names the relation between the response and the consequence. That distinction is what usually separates the correct answer from the attractive distractor. Final rule. Extinction means the response no longer produces the maintaining reinforcer. Negative punishment means a stimulus or reinforcer is withdrawn after behavior and the behavior decreases in the future. Do not decide from the word removed. Decide from the function, the contingency, and the future effect. To keep practicing with exam-style wording, take the free BCBA mock exam and use the BCBA 6th edition quick study guide at bcbmockexam.com.